From the day he was born, this is the tale of a boy who was disliked by his parents. Regretfully, Dayven was born at the same time and date as Cajun, a young person who is lucky enough to be blessed by the sword god Kashak. Cajun is gifted with a beautiful body and incredible ability. All Dayven's mom could hope was that Cajun was her son and not him. One of the things that disappointed her and his father was Dayven's absence of a right arm. His mother used to whisper to him every night that he ought to die. Knowing what had happened, Dayven apologized to her without trying to figure out why she hated him. He feared death. Before Dayven was even born, he listened to his father proclaiming that he was the embodiment of hope. During that period, they anticipated Dayven's arrival since his father had never managed to surpass his older brother. However, the speaker held hope that when Dayven was born, he would exceed his brother's son in some way. Despite being born with only one hand and without the favor of a deity, Dayven's father still held the expectation that he would triumph over Cajun. However, the mere fact of Dayven's birth shattered all his father's aspirations. Despite Cajun playing cheerfully and starting to walk, Dayven continued to face difficulty while attempting to stand. By the time Dayven learned to walk, Cajun had already grasped a weapon in his hand. Cajun had already experienced mana and started training in Samion's swordsmanship by the time Dayven first held the blade. Dayven eventually started to admire and feel jealous of Cajun. At the age of 7, he was chosen to assist Cajun. Externally, it was widely understood that he was dispatched as a helper to assist Cajun, but in actuality, his parents exchanged him for a sum of 300,000 liden. As they matured, Cajun exploited him due to the fact that right from the start, Dayven was a source of irritation to him. For this reason, Cajun directed his anger towards Dayven, leaving Dayven with no other option but to suppress his tears. He found it difficult to accept that the adults who came before him ignored the situation. Dayven's uncle was renowned for being a remarkable individual. However, he departed from the family a considerable time ago and never returned. Due to the lack of supervision, Cajun was able to develop into a leader on his own. Because of his exceptional skill and the favor bestowed upon him by the sword god, he effortlessly triumphed over everyone. Afterwards, he would confront Dayven, who resented Cajun's power and skill. Cajun strongly disliked the expression on Dayven's face and gave his all in fighting against him, as he couldn't tolerate being perceived in that manner by someone lacking skill. Cajun informs Dayven that no matter how much effort he puts in throughout his entire life, he will never be capable of attaining his level of strength. Dayven has a strong desire to emerge victorious, he truly does, but his aspirations cannot solely be attained through sheer effort. As Cajun matured, he became increasingly negligent in his commitment to training, indulging in alcohol, lavish meals, and drugs. Nevertheless, Dayven remained incapable of defeating him. Cajun, being a brilliant person, chose not to put in any effort, while Dayven, despite being foolish, diligently worked towards his goals. However, both of them agree on one thing: their current situations are not permanent. After many battles, the main one came for Dayven. Subsequent to trading a couple of blows, interestingly, he got the high ground against Cajun. Subsequent to blinding him, he immediately moved toward him to convey a hard impact with which he at long last figured out how to overcome Cajun. Up to that point, the straight on record was 21 battles and 21 misfortunes to Cajun, yet following 29 years, Dayven had the option to win. Regardless of the multitude of times he lost and individuals advising him to quit any pretense of deriding him for being an inept blockhead, he won, and everybody yelled his name. Cajun couldn't tolerate losing to Dayven. At that point, Dayven heard the words that fell on his ears when he was more youthful, the expressions of disdain that his folks shared with him. Dayven lets Cajun know that if it were in his shoes, he could never have experienced that way. He could not have possibly squandered his life on liquor and medications. He clarifies that he would have carried on with a more significant life than stepping on the frail. When Dayven goes to leave, thoroughly considering it's everything, Cajun runs his blade through his chest, leaving everybody dazed. Cajun, adult as far as possible, regardless of overcoming Cajun, it was absolutely impossible that Dayven would live. The sun-edged greatsword that main the immediate line of the Samion family utilizes additionally contains Samion family mana with hostile to enchantment properties, implying that except if the marvelous holy person Layla showed up, it was absolutely impossible that Dayven would get by. Prior to shutting his eyes, Dayven lets Cajun know that he will constantly be recognized as a washout. Shockingly, Dayven later awakens restricted, accepting he is in damnation. In any case, this covered person lets him know that he is a fortunate person as the wonderful holy person Layla was available in the field and mended Dayven, despite the fact that his entire body was broken and there was nothing left but to relax. Then, this person inquires as to whether he marked an agreement with Satan. Dayven is shocked to hear such a proclamation, however the person specifies that his folks let it be known, so denying it is futile. Other than that, bottles with Dayven's blood for the agreement with Satan were tracked down in his family's home. They blame him for being an evil presence who forfeited 300 honest youngsters to make himself more grounded. Dayven figured out how to overcome Cajun yet not the Samion family. All things considered, his own family picked Cajun over him on account of this large number of allegations. Dayven is condemned to life detainment, and his mana is fixed. Dayven's ligaments were cut, and his mana was fixed through many chains, thus he was brought to jail. There, he gets a visit from Cajun who chuckles at him. Cajun figured out how to turn into a blade ruler, and individuals acclaim him for being a focused virtuoso. This simpleton says thanks to Dayven for everything, as it was thanks to him that he accomplished all that. After Cajun embarrassed him and left the food they brought, Dayven diminished the law to the place where they quit taking care of him. Dayven was starving. He figures it would have been exceptional to bite the dust in the field than to pass on along these lines. Dayven implodes and contemplates whether, assuming that he had the two arms, his life would have been unique. If by some stroke of good luck he had been of direct genealogy, if by some stroke of good luck he had the gift of the blade god, could his life have been unique? Dayven won't bite the dust, and despite the fact that it appears to be that it will occur, he doesn't completely accept that he is dead. All things considered, Dayven opens his eyes again in disarray. He is called by the name Vincent, and a sort of natural individual is holding his right arm. It is a grown-up from one of the family branches. He thinks about how he knows him, yet more critically, for what reason did he simply call him Minchin? Is it a fantasy? Vincent is the seventh child of a Dinka. He assumes he is in a fantasy, and it doesn't appear to be so terrible. The air feels new, dissimilar to the jail he was in addition to he has his right arm. The individual before him continues to hold his arm. Yulion attempts to incur torment utilizing mana. There he responds. The strategy to impede that sort of assault is to isolate from the rival actually. Dayven pushes the person back, in spite of the fact that he is shocked as it's anything but a sufficient assault to push somebody back that far. Then, at that point, apologizes and lets him know that his hand slipped. The person gets up indignantly and lets Dayven know that his child will crush him pitilessly, and that it will be whenever the obedient family first will pulverize the primary family. The person leaves while compromising him and advises him to sit tight for the day of the gathering of the genuine sorts. Be that as it may, isn't this a fantasy? Provided that this is true, he ought to have awakened at this point. Then a few recollections begin streaming back to him. His mom died in the wake of conceiving an offspring, while his dad couldn't have cared less about him. The wide range of various kids dealt with him like soil. Be that as it may, the eighth offspring of the well-known Adinka sword family, he is Vincent, the seventh. He was such a weakling that he fell down and cried in his room subsequent to being slapped by Loa, the most youthful of the family. Now is the ideal time to acknowledge it. The Dayven we knew from the Samion family has turned into a feudal notice from the Adinka family. Definitely he's resurrected. Now Vincent fails to see how this occurred. Then, he goes over a journal that Vincent used to disdain himself. His confidence fell so low that he abandoned everything. All that showed that God had heard the requests Dayven needed to live in his last minutes. He then considers what has been going on with the first Vincent. Minutes after the fact, he hears a voice. This cautions him. He thinks it is a devil attempting to deceive him since his rebirth ought to never have occurred. In any case, no, the one addressing him was the first proprietor of the body he is in. Since the first Vincent gave him his body, he no longer has a name, so presently he chooses to call himself Yulion. Vincent is confronting a disclosure, something the divine beings provide for people. He had heard that individuals favored from birth can hear the disclosure, and that implies that Yulion is a divine being, a lesser one. Yulion notices that initially he had expected to call an otherworldly god, however the now Vincent slithered all things being equal. If Yulion has any desire to turn into a genuine god and not a lesser one, he should accomplish various achievements. This goes by the name of calling. On the off chance that Yulion finishes his calling, he will actually want to turn into a genuine god. Vincent lets him know that he figures out the conditions, however clarifies that he isn't keen on his accomplishments since, supposing that everything is as Yulion has said, that implies that Vincent has procured himself another everyday routine which he will be caught up with experiencing, so he have the opportunity to pay attention to the desires of a phantom. Yulion surrendered his life, and Dayven wanted for one. Notwithstanding, he specifies that the profound energy he has is extremely low, and assuming that energy vanishes totally, Vincent's body will pass on. Vincent thinks it is completely false as he sees that the body is excessively smart for an early passing, however not long after he falls to the ground. From that second on, Yulion will show him the genuine recollections, the ones where Vincent was dealt with like soil. In any case, he sees something in the articulation he had, which is the reason he reaches the resolution that while Vincent was playing the weakling, he was planning to get payback. Considerations not by any stretch appropriate for a 13-year-old kid. Vincent awakens, and Yulion inquires as to whether he will pay attention to him now. Then, Yulion inquires as to whether he knows the archdemon Dayven and the legend ruler Cajon, which shocks Vincent significantly. This is something that happened quite a while back. A one-outfitted fighter, Dayven, got away from Samion jail and, utilizing an agreement with an evil spirit, gobbled up a great many lives to become more grounded. He's said to have killed more than 10,000 individuals, so he is kept in history as an extraordinary devil. In any case, quite a while back, does that mean he voyaged 500 years into what's to come? Things don't appear to check out, yet alongside having the names Dayven and Cajon, they are both from the bloodline of the Samion family. Notwithstanding, Vincent is certain that in his previous existence, he passed on in that jail. The Samion family deserted the one-furnished man and picked the Tempest sword, while the one-outfitted fighter passed on alone. The Tempest sword turned into the Blade Ruler, or so it is accepted. However, to create the story, and allude to them as the incomparable evil presence ruler and the legend, that is something that drives Vincent exceptionally mad. Yulion jokes and lets him know that Cajon was a companion who truly cherished Dayven, which makes Vincent angrier, as he probably is aware this is a made-up story. Yulion inquires as to whether in the previous existence he was somebody from that time. He then explains that the story is only a mix of stories that the victors abandoned. Yulion keeps talking. He specifies that the ruler gulped his tears and worked with the best legend of the time, his closest companion, the sovereign of the Sun's Sword, to overcome the incomparable evil spirit Dayven. The ruler of the sun is Arson, precursor of the Adinka family. Vincent is shocked that this imp has turned into the main patriarch of the Adinka family, and is that Arson was a kid who respected Dayven a great deal. This is on the grounds that when Arson was youthful, he was a supporter of Dayven. Arson even visited him a couple of times while he was in jail. He was irritated about how he had been treated by Dayven and let him know that he would ensure he got his distinction back. However, that's what after he said, he didn't visit him once more. Yulion notices that Arsene Fokker is the main patriarch of the Adinka family and leaves them the mission of their lives. It is something worth talking about to do with Julion's accomplishment, beating the Samion family and confronting reality. Vincent thinks Arsene certainly let him know that he would figure out reality. He was somebody who knew how they had violated Dayven. Vincent doesn't know, however, Arsene Fokker left the Fokker family and made the Adinka family to confront reality. Adinka is another family that was made to re-establish Dayven's honor. Vincent guesses that it is fate to be naturally introduced to Arsene's loved ones. Vincent inquires as to whether by satisfying his calling he will end up being a genuine god, and the response is yes. Also, assuming that occurs, Dayven will actually want to turn into the genuine proprietor of Vincent's body. Furthermore, on the off chance that Yulion turns into a divine being, he will actually want to present a gift to Vincent. An arrangement benefits them both. Vincent expresses gratitude toward Arsene, takes a sword, and says he will acquire the mission he abandoned. He will outperform the Samion family, the family that deceived him. Yulion jokes with Vincent and calls him old since, supposing that he is somebody from a long time back, then he is an elderly person, right? In the wake of strolling for some time, they show up at a preparation match. Vincent considers what sort of combative techniques individuals of that time will utilize. He is intrigued to know how much hand-to-hand fighting has worked on north of 500 years. He additionally thinks about major areas of strength for how relatives of Kajin have become. Nonetheless, his body feels weighty to the place where he swoons. The body he has now isn't excellent. It is in such a terrible state that in the event that he doesn't utilize mana to control it, he cannot carry on with a typical life. In the wake of thinking for some time, he detects a progression of mana and shouts to Yulion, then, at that point, whines to him why he didn't figure out how to employ the sword when he used to have that body. Yulion answers that he had an inability that didn't permit him to learn it. In any case, Vincent lets him know that he has the grand exoskeleton, so he ought to have figured out how to utilize the blade. Yulion has barely any familiarity with exoskeleton. Vincent specifies that with the magnificent exoskeleton, he can store mana in any piece of his body, all the more precisely in his bones. Yulion actually doesn't have any idea, and Vincent attempts to clear up it for him in a more justifiable manner. A military craftsman needs to utilize mana to have strength past an ordinary human. The mana that causes supernatural occurrences is put away in the core of a human. Yet having the eminent exoskeleton implies that mana can be put away during the bones over the heart. That implies that the person who has it will actually want to vastly utilize mana. Yulion actually doesn't comprehend the significance of what Vincent is referring to, and that will be that Kajin, whom everybody calls the legend ruler, additionally had the brilliant exoskeleton. It's unexpected, right? Dayven was resurrected in a body with the physiognomy of Kahon, whom he begrudged for his entire life. In a flashback, Yulion lets him know that he can't connect the symbolism to the heart. Vincent doesn't have the foggiest idea what he implies by symbolism. This is symbolism stockpiling for mana. Seeing that he didn't store mana in his heart, Vincent ponders the technique for contemplation, albeit Yulion doesn't know precisely the exact sort of reflection strategy he is discussing. Vincent specifies that Fokker, the primary Atenka, had an extraordinary reflection technique to store mana in the heart. In Yulion's time, they store the mana in the symbolism and call everyone a star. The quantity of stars utilized addresses the strength of the military craftsmen. Sometime in the past, they wiped out the technique for putting away mana in the actual body. There are not even records of them. These days, they use SD cards to store mana. All in all, this implies that a grown-up of the family makes something like one symbolism. Connecting a symbolism interestingly and feeling the mana are the prerequisites of a star. Symbolism was made to stay away from the dangers of putting away mana in the heart. Before, the greater part of the military specialists kicked the bucket putting away mana in their souls since they detonated. Julion requests that he relax and utilize his body appropriately as though it were valuable, which for sure it is. Which is the reason Vincent asks Julion for what valid reason he did that to his own body. That body was brought into the world with a magnificent exoskeleton and with a solid heart and wizardry power circuit. Julion would surely have succeeded assuming that he had grown up with legitimate preparation in the Samion family. The wonderful exoskeleton is a bone design that permits him to store mana, yet it likewise needs mana to be put away, and his sublime exoskeleton has been starving for mana for north of 13 years. At that rate, Vincent Ininka's body will bite the dust without having arrived at adulthood. Afterward, Vincent ponders. He realizes it will keep the body's condition from deteriorating, however there is a cutoff. He may just have around 10 years left, and that is a sizable amount of time for Tempest Blade to become ruler of the sword and for Dayven with one arm to fail, to be remembered by the world. It is the time Dayven spent starving while detained as he yearned forever. Those 10 years were almost certainly alarming and irrationally lengthy. Then somebody thumps on the entryway, and afterward enters. It is Vincent's worker. He goes by Wilson, the very one that Julion said he would cut his throat 3 years after the fact. Try not to think excessively hard. That kid had a few extremely turned contemplations. Vincent requests that Wilson present to him some perfect garments. Wilson is shocked as he sees that Vincent is by all accounts more grounded than expected. He then asks him how he has been making the room such a wreck. Wilson thinks Vincent has been learning dull enchantment or something, so he needs to alarm the Great Chamberlain and illuminate the Patriarch. Vincent gradually approaches and threatensly advises Wilson to take care of his business, as that is what he should do. He should be the worker. Be that as it may, he would rather not do things he doesn't want to do. Vincent clarifies that he is a worker. Since it appears as though he will do nothing, Vincent chooses to go to the huge chamberlain that Wilson discussed to request clean garments, as well as letting him know that he needed to go himself since his worker Wilson would rather not work. This makes Wilson out of nowhere maintain that should go about his business, and he'll do the cleaning as well. However fearful and uncaring as Vincent may be, a worker can't be so ill-bred and self-important. They probably set him there intentionally. Julion thinks something very similar. They presumably maintain that Vincent should tackle the issue of a rebellious and impolite worker to show how the seventh youthful master of Atinka ought to be. Julion notices that Wilson used to be a gangster, and that he likewise killed many individuals. Vincent doesn't trust this too. A kill may be valid, as an individual has a specific energy, and he feels nothing at all approaching from Wilson. Besides, he feels that he is likewise a defeatist. Julion requests him how he makes certain from what he said. Vincent makes certain of this since he has carried on with such a daily existence. Julion is terrified, as he accepts he brought something more startling than a soul ruler, since we should recall that Julion doesn't realize that the character of who his creation's body is, Dayven himself. Wilson wraps up doing the clothing and tidying up Vincent's room. Wilson sees that Vincent is more agreeable. Vincent asks him for a 1-meter wooden sword weighing around 500 grams, and it should be made of dark-smelling wood. There should be tons like this in the family stockroom. Wilson declines. If so, Vincent would need to go all alone, obviously, and tell the stockroom manager that he is there in person, since Wilson wouldn't follow orders, which is an issue. Wilson didn't have the foggiest idea about this. Yet distribution center guardians are outstanding military specialists and exceptionally faithful to the immediate relatives of the family. Wilson asks him for what reason he is behaving like that once more, and when he attempts to contact him, Vincent answers by wrecking him, as he has terrible recollections of being gone after from behind. In spite of having done that, Vincent's body was squirming excruciatingly. Wilson gets up. It seems as though he had a comment. However, he at long last consents to follow Vincent's requests, in spite of the fact that he plainly didn't have any desire to from the beginning. Wilson is vexed and doesn't have any desire to lose to Vincent at any point in the future. Wilson gets the sword to Vincent in a terrible way. Vincent remarks that he knows, while a no-ideal individual arm and who has had a hard existence until he met a horrendous end. This makes Wilson's mentality change once more, and he gives up the weapon appropriately, despite the fact that it is humiliating for him. Vincent needs legitimate preparation, so he starts to embrace it. He realizes that the glorious exoskeleton he has is very frail. However, he didn't anticipate being so worn out in the wake of employing the wooden blade a couple of times. Nonetheless, it is a positive sentiment, all that showed that this body was destined to be a military craftsman. Minutes after the fact, a person shows up and slices the life-sized model down the middle. He goes by Raven Atinka. Vincent is certainly not somebody he enjoys. Yulion makes sense that Raven Atinka is an exceptionally insurance relative. He is likewise one of the up-and-comers who is anticipated to win the genuine Blades gathering. The person from before was this person's dad. Yulion cautions him to be cautious, as he is a rising star, the most gifted among the 13-year-olds in the Atinka family. Concerning Raven, that's what he figured, assuming he won in the genuine sword gathering, he would need to battle Vincent, which is the reason he came to track down him. The genuine sword gathering is a rivalry that unites various children of military families connected with the Atinka family to battle with genuine blades. In spite of the fact that there is no age limitation, individuals ordinarily take part in this occasion from the age of 14. The champ of the genuine blade gathering has the potential to battle against an immediate relative of the Atinka family who is a similar age. That immediate relative who will battle against the victor of the opposition will be Vincent, who in principle is viewed as the most fragile of the immediate relatives. Raven thinks Vincent is apprehensive, yet running against the norm. As a matter of fact, he lets him know that even incitements ought to have a specific degree of pride and class. He is irritated that Raven went there to ridicule him. The Dayven without an arm was regarded both in the instructional course and in the battlefield. Indeed, even Cajon regarded him. Vincent lets Raven know that it was his dad who showed him such habits. This drives Raven crazy, so he chooses not to pardon him now that Vincent affronted his dad. Yulion cautions that Raven is at a 2-star level and has the properties of a man of steel. He should be cautious, as Raven, in principle, is more grounded than Vincent. This he knows. Assuming that they battle now, he will lose, yet he can't stand that sensation of inadequacy that Raven was raised with as a security relative. Raven is utilizing mana despite the fact that he realizes Vincent can't make it happen. This kid's dad doesn't behave like a grown-up, and his child doesn't have the foggiest idea about the behavior of being a military craftsman. Vincent needs to sort him out. He lets him know that in his time, somebody like Raven would have gotten hammered by the older folks of a family. The two of them point their blades at one another. Raven realizes that Vincent has no mana. In any case, the climate he is in suggests that Vincent could chop him down any time he needed to. Vincent stops things there and cautions Raven that in the gathering of the genuine blades, things won't end with simply wooden swords. That makes Raven burst out of resentment and attempt to go after him. Raven is going to go after him, and Vincent doesn't actually appear to have any expectation of evading this since he realizes Raven can't hurt him. Thus, a person shows up to stop Raven. In the event that he had harmed Vincent, it would have been an issue. Raven lets Vincent know that they will meet at the gathering of the genuine swords. Yulion asks Vincent for what reason he incited Raven before. He answers that all he did was show an insolent youngster a thing or two. Vincent is attempting to realize about that period through Yulion. He was checking a few representations out. Yulion lets him know that now that they are finished with the picture hypothesis, the gifts and attributes follow. The qualities are falsely produced using the broken down force of the gifts, a man-made gift. Vincent inquires as to whether he can make endowments, as this is impolite to the divine beings. Yulion answers that nobody has kicked the bucket yet from divine discipline. Vincent specifies that Raven likewise has a quality, man of steel. Yulion makes sense that the Bantam Lord's endowments incorporate numerous things, however this characteristic spotlights on fortifying the body. The more you grind a particular quality, the more grounded ways it opens up. That is known as a genealogical record. Man of Steel is a mid-level characteristic. Guard and horrendous power are the claims to fame of this quality. Vincent trains. Individuals then notice that he is utilizing just his left hand, so they imagine that Vincent will not have the option to utilize symbolism that way. Furthermore, he begins gasping after a couple of hits. Be that as it may, this person, bad habit pioneer Merlin, tells them not to talk so impulsively about Vincent. Despite the fact that Merlin needs to guard Vincent, taking a gander at him, typical individuals go ahead and call him the disgrace of a Tinka, as he is a person who uses the blade carelessly with next to no mana or quality, bound to be loathed by individuals. Since everybody was murmuring as they watched Vincent, Yulion proposes to go train in the backwoods. In any case, Vincent is accustomed to being peered downward on in any case, recollecting that nobody anticipated that Dayven should without any assistance beat Cajon, yet he did and traded the alcohol for acclaim. Then, Merlin gives Vincent a high-level recuperation elixir, which will make preparing simpler. Merlin acquaints himself with him. Vincent is astonished that he isn't chuckling, in spite of the fact that, frankly, he did at first, yet Merlin saw that Vincent's eyes appear to be frantically looking for something. Vincent lets Merlin know that he will recollect his name. Vincent keeps on preparing, both genuinely and hypothetically. Adjusting on his right leg, turning his hip, feeling the mana in his heart, he has started to see it, recalling the method for overcoming Cajon, a way of swords made and stacked with spots and lines to show abilities. Then, he stirs things up around the town faker and figures out how to cut it in two. It worked. His blade strike is finished. Afterward, Wilson is irritated that Vincent's preparation just gives him more work to do. He then serves Vincent breakfast. Vincent promptly understands that Wilson explicitly took a portion of the food, and he didn't actually wipe his mouth. Vincent can let it go this time, yet is clear with him. He doesn't believe that he should go too far. Then, Wilson begins to undermine him by letting him know that he used to be a criminal who killed many individuals. Clearly, this doesn't incite dread in that frame of mind through clairvoyance. Lets Wilson know that controlling through dread is simple yet pointless. That is the reason he doesn't push him with power. Wilson is shocked, as he didn't anticipate that Vincent should have the option to utilize mana. Vincent advises Wilson to quit acting pleased before him and stand close by, as soon he won't be embarrassed to be Vincent Adinka's property. Vincent gives him two decisions: be controlled by dread or show unwaveringly. Wilson leaves and rejects that any unwaveringly is shaped towards him, in spite of the fact that his face in the wake of leaving expresses the inverse. Merlin meanders around the preparation ground and notification that Vincent got done with preparing before in the day. That is not by any means the only thing he sees. Vincent figured out how to cut a sham. He figures he did it with a genuine edge, yet from what he saw, Vincent just utilized wooden swords. It takes a ton of expertise to pull off a cut like that. Merlin thinks about what sort of hand-to-hand fighting Vincent is learning. Wilson has become extremely pleasant. Vincent specifies something about the garments being made of levadine cotton, which is entirely productive yet ruins the floor. It's not something sufficient to be worn by an aristocrat. Other than that, the food quality is low contrasted with the family spending plan. This implies there is somebody taking cash. They could thank Wilson, however he has no clue about what they are referring to. It's most certainly not him. It should be somebody higher up. Raven is preparing while at the same time recalling how threatening Vincent looked with a simple wooden sword, yet he doesn't appear to be apprehensive by any stretch of the imagination. It drives him crazy, as a matter of fact. His dad goes to see him and lets him know that there isn't a lot of time for the gathering of the genuine blades. That's what he clarifies. To escape from that existence of destitution and the aggravation of the branch families, Raven should overcome Vincent. Raven should turn into the main individual from the branch family to oust the primary family. Raven's dad is by all accounts getting increasingly more bad-tempered as they get together methodologies. He is turning out to be increasingly fixated. Raven likes to overcome Vincent on the grounds that as such, the two, his dad and his family, can return to how they were previously. We return to Yulion, who has figured out data about individuals who take part in the genuine Blades rivalry. Individual data as well as the procedures they use and their propensities, which is unquestionably startling. In any case, Yulion accepts it as a commendation. Yulion's arrangement was to make an eye-getting debut with the genuine swords gathering by acquiring the strength of the Soul Ruler and furthermore the Marvel Stone, the mana gem given to the boss whenever ingested. The body and mana are in a flash reinforced. From the data he has assembled and the articulation he shows, Vincent knows that Yulion needs to win. It would be a shame as a military craftsman on the off chance that you lose, regardless of whether he has that multitude of devices available to him. Vincent lets him know that in spite of the fact that he may not be the otherworldly lord he was expecting, he will make sure that he gives him a significantly more important triumph. Then, Vincent calls Wilson as he really wants him to work on something for him. He wants Wilson to go see the incomparable Chamberlain Railsa. Simply being before her threatens him. Wilson tells Railsa that Vincent had something to tell the rest of the family. He requested that the head of the family notice the get-together of the genuine swords straightforwardly, as Vincent said he would demonstrate his value as an individual from the fundamental Attica family. Railsa makes reference to that the top of the family has never seen that opposition and has not a great explanation to do as such. Then, at that point, Wilson makes reference to the fact that this is the expense of stealing the financial plan, astounding Railsa. After Wilson leaves, she feels that Vincent might have come for himself. It would have been more successful to undermine him himself. However, he sent Wilson to show authority. Has Vincent figured out Railsa's goals? Railsa likewise goes to the top of the family, Patriarch Khan, to let him know that Vincent has welcomed her to the gathering of the genuine swords. The demeanor of the top of the family is fairly cold, and in spite of the fact that Vincent has said he would show his value, he doesn't completely accept that he is adequately talented to discuss the worth of the genealogy he conveys. Railsa requests that he, if it's not too much trouble, go to the occasion. In any event, that's what lets him know whether Vincent can't demonstrate his value. She will give her head in return. The boss doesn't see the reason why she is doing this. Rail says it is on the grounds that Vincent enjoys taking advantage of a shortcoming of hers. The Central definitely had some awareness of the spending plan misappropriation, however he recognizes that it should be something she did deliberately for the good of Vincent, as she expected to involve that cash for his future. Khan says he has not a great explanation to meddle since, rigorously speaking, Railsa is that lady's worker, not his. However, he perceives that this sort of technique is truly similar to her, communicating every one of her goals towards him with no trace of poise. In any case, might it be said that he is actually Sarvana's child? Railsa wins. The Central will go to the gathering of the genuine swords. The day of the genuine swords gathering has at last shown up. The contenders enter the field. Not entirely settled to overcome Vincent, seeing Khan's presence. Raven is astounded. He is certain that he is there to see his presentation. For all things considered, Raven is the rising star. He would rather not pass up on the valuable chance to overcome Vincent before the Patriarch. The get-together of the genuine swords starts. Raven has his most memorable showdown, in which he figures out how to win effectively, making his dad stand up pleased. No big surprise they call Raven the rising star. All things considered, he is youthful and right now has 2 stars. In addition, the safeguard characteristic he has is great. All things considered, a security relative would win the opposition interestingly. Vincent was watching. In light of the principles of a long time back, everybody there is a virtuoso, yet they have no profundity in hand-to-hand fighting. The strength they have comes primarily from individual qualities. Vincent sees no battling experience in those moves. It's like they are moving mannequins. That is presumably why Raven can utilize characteristics and assaults so carelessly. Raven figures Vincent will take off, however Vincent won't run anywhere. The battles proceeded. Raven continued to move until he at long last beat every one of the contenders. That is the point at which he shows himself before Khan, and similarly as the regulations said direct, he needs to battle Vincent as the last battle of the gathering of the genuine blades. Vincent doesn't reconsider and acknowledges the demand. Both go to the battling field. The ref, Zarin, having a place with the White Blade unit, will be responsible for beginning. Experience hinders as he has a condition. He will utilize the wooden sword and his pass close by to battle. Additionally, he will allow Raven to have 3 goes after first. Until these 3 assaults are finished, Vincent won't move a solitary step. Where Van asks him what in blazes he is doing, he assumes he is ridiculing him. Indeed, even now, the crowd thought this was ludicrous and that Vincent doesn't know anything about hand-to-hand fighting. Raven's dad steps in to say that Vincent is possibly doing this to rationalize when he loses. Yet Khan will permit Vincent's circumstances. In any case, he makes it clear to him that he better demonstrate words with activities. The quarrel is over to begin. The two of them get ready, and it at last starts. Raven burns through no time and goes after right away. The principal assault is probably going to be a shortcut. The majority of the assaults are bluffs. The genuine assault would be the subsequent wound. Vincent believes Raven's moves are clear to such an extent that he can see them even without Julion's data. Huge blades, first of all, are not made for cutting, so he diverts the assault with one hand. Raven is astounded in light of the fact that for something to that effect to occur, Vincent must be a lot more grounded than him. Finch and allow him to have 2 goes after first. He has just a single assault left, yet Raven flies off the handle at the pomposity Vincent is appearing and attempts to go after everything, except it doesn't work. Vincent figures out how to get him by one arm and wreck him. The 3 assaults are finished. It's currently or never. Vincent plans to satisfy the commitment he made to Julian and father. Presently it's his chance to assault. Everybody was astounded that Raven had bowed before Vincent. His dad, irate, asks him for what valid reason he's having such a difficult situation against somebody who can't utilize mana. Raven doesn't have the foggiest idea what's happening, considerably less Julian, who hasn't seen it plainly. Vincent answers that it's an essential unarmed battle. Remaining there stunned in light of the fact that you don't have a sharp edge isn't the method of a genuine military craftsman. Significance: there are numerous ways of smothering a rival without weapons. Raven specifies that he sees now Vincent has gotten a characteristic given by a little minor god. This is no sweat for Vincent. Assuming it makes things simpler for him, let Raven continue to think like that. Raven plans to go after once more, yet Vincent figures out how to avoid him and gets ready to countergo after by hitting him in the neck. Nonetheless, this doesn't hurt Raven, as a training sword will always be unable to get through the guards of a man of steel with a wrecked wonderful exoskeleton and an undeveloped body. Vincent will not have the option to utilize extraordinary strength yet in the event that Raven acquires certainty, he will go after in the future with a similar strategy. Thus, Vincent, utilizing the force of him punching downwards, hits him in the stomach, then, at that point, tells the ref, Ziren, to give his all to forestall a misfortune. Vincent just has a single opportunity. In the event that he utilizes that capacity only a single time, his body will implode. He should complete the battle while Raven is still in the air. Raven attempts to protect himself, however Vincent can see through the assaults, the strange way of blades that will associate the two focuses. He advises Julian to look cautiously. This is the sword he dominated. Vincent figures out how to hit him, drawing the consideration of even the patriarch. Persuaded, slices into space and turns the progression of mana utilizing the sword to slice through everything, including the foe's capacity. That is the outright blade. Raven grumbles of agony in his arm as retaliation's pass tore it over. Vincent tells Zarin to stop the battle immediately, as there is a champ. Raven's dad enters the front line to help watch out for his child's injuries. They should call the cleric. Vincent had cautioned the official. He advised him to stop before a misfortune happened. Regardless of keeping his self-restraint, Vincent's body is anxious, yet this is no chance to fall. Vincent goes to Khan and lets him know that he kept the commitment. From that point forward, Khan provides Vincent with the victor of the genuine swords gathering. From that point onward, they get ready for the granting. Vincent will be given a Marvel Stone as a prize. Raven's dad blasts into complete outrage, as he accepts that Vincent utilized filthy deceives and acquired the force of a messenger. The cleric lets Khan know that there is an issue. Raven's arm won't be joined to his body once more. Raven's dad will not acknowledge that his child would live with just a single arm, in any event, faulting the ministers for not having the option to recuperate him. Be that as it may, it's a kind of physical issue they've never seen. It isn't just something they have not seen previously. However, it appears to be that Raven was cut by something that the cleric's heavenly powers can't deal with. They should hustle. If not, even a devout minister cannot fix what is going on. Raven's dad improves the hypothesis that Vincent utilized grimy stunts. Vincent inquires as to whether he can answer the allegations, who gives him authorization. Vincent specifies that the gathering of the genuine blades was held within the sight of the Patriarch Khan. Hence, all procedures are viewed as supported and fully backed by the Patriarch. The Patriarch has approved Vincent as the last champ. In this manner, the expressions of Raven's dad, Charles, straightforwardly discredit the power of the Patriarch. Vincent orders Zarin, having a place with the White Blade unit, to capture Charles since he ridiculed the Patriarch's clout openly. Zarin captures Charles. Then, at that point, the Patriarch intercedes to let Charles know that he is obliged to Vincent. In the event that he had not been there, Charles would have needed to confront the family sanctions. Khan will allow what is going on to pass, however asks him not to open his mouth once more. Yulion appears to look cheerful, as it is an important encounter to be commended by the Patriarch. However, back to Raven. Going on like this, the right arm will be lost for eternity. Then Yulion murmurs some mediation, clarifying that it would be an opportunity in support of himself. Vincent inquires as to whether he can't fix the arm with the Wonderstone. All things considered, it was Vincent who removed Raven's right arm. It would be great if he would stop it. Patriarch Khan concurs. Raven approaches Charles and liberates him utilizing a blade. Notwithstanding, in assisting him, it will be tit for tat and a tooth, for Raven's right arm will require another person's right arm. Vincent contemplates Charles being a failure, as he will not express anything in spite of the circumstance. Is a right arm that vital to him? I get it. Charles consents to forfeit his right arm. Clearly, despite the fact that he was playing the fool, he adored his child. As Charles was going to remove his arm, Zarin intercedes on Vincent's request to prevent Charles from eliminating his arm. Vincent lets Charles know that he trusts that in the future he will involve all that boldness for a superior reason. So, the circumstances are settled. Khan gives the Wonderstone to Vincent, who quickly gives it to the minister. The minister, named Dallin, starts to involve it in the expectation of recuperating Raven's arm supernaturally. Seconds after the fact, Raven gets his arm back. The mending of Raven was Yulion's thought. In spite of the fact that it's a pity since that stone might have been utilized to extinguish the thirst of the eminent exoskeleton. While this was going on, Wilson was paying attention to everything behind the entryway, thinking how extraordinary Vincent was. Then he recollects everything that Vincent had said to him before, lastly chooses to be faithful to Vincent. Wilson currently chooses to give total unwaveringly to Vincent. Then, the cleric goes to see Vincent. He is Dallin, a minister who venerates Gaia. He is there to offer thanks to him for the matter previously, and shockingly, he gives him back the Wonderstone. Dallin gives it to him, since making the people who experience first ascent up and chuckle until they are blissful is the motivation behind why he turned into a minister. Besides, perceiving how Vincent acted, he looked at the worth of the Marvel Stone to a human existence, and Vincent readily surrendered the supernatural occurrence stone. It made Dallin reflect. Vincent lets him know that he sat idle. Dallin just acknowledged it himself. Notwithstanding, tolerating the stone would be the appropriate method for regarding Dallin. Notwithstanding the supernatural occurrence stone, Dallin gives Vincent a card in the event that he at any point needs the sanctuary's assistance. Dallin has turned into an inferior minister, albeit that isn't yet open information. Yulion is shocked. Similar to an inferior minister implies having limitless treatment, free utilization of the staff, in addition to the card from before is equivalent to telling them, "Deal with me like a below-average cleric." In spite of the fact that Vincent doesn't actually have the foggiest idea what inferior means, Dallin bids farewell, and Yulion is cheerful in light of the fact that now they have something far superior to Wilson. Yulion is somewhat frail to commend. Discussing a claim, Khan typically eats alone, however in the past he welcomed one of the Atinka relatives to eat with him. After the get-together of the genuine blades, that individual was the subsequent girl, Da, and she had a mind-boggling triumph in the gathering of the genuine swords. The fact of the matter is that there is a half opportunity that exactly the same thing will occur with Vincent that evening, in spite of the fact that his body feels solid. Then, at that point, he begins to set himself up, despite the fact that it was not entirely certain that he would be welcome to the supper. Minutes after the fact, Wilson enters to tell Vincent that Manager Khan has welcomed him to supper, exactly what Vincent anticipated. En route to supper, Vincent meets his stepmother, who praises him on winning the opposition. Vincent's genuine mother died in the wake of bringing forth him. The stepmother's name is Versa Goodcountry. Before her retirement, she was such a wild military craftsman that she was known as a Goliath. These days, she is accountable for everything connected with the Adinka house. The two of them forge ahead to where Khan is hanging tight for them. The tension Khan is applying is unbelievable to the point that Vincent finds it hard to relax. The climate hasn't felt like this previously. It implies that the way that he was welcomed should be a test for him. Vincent lets him know that he doesn't think there is any need to come down on him in a confidential gathering deliberately. This is on the grounds that Khan should anticipate him as a dad, not as the top of the family. Khan recognizes that Vincent was on the whole correct to take note. He has called him for two reasons: to salute him on the present triumph and to perceive how substantial Charles's interests were. Then, Versa looks rather threateningly at Vincent, this to assess him. Khan inquires as to whether quite possibly Vincent is a witness, yet she answers that he doesn't appear to be. Vincent feels a horrendous sensation. It should be Versa's claim to fame. She has eyes that can see through reality. Khan requests Versa what kind of military workmanship Vincent utilizes, since he has not yet had the option to connect a picture to the heart. How is it that he could remove Raven's arm, who is a 2-star military craftsman? Versa answers that Vincent's capacity is like the blade of the legend ruler, Kajin Samion. He used his sword in bizarre ways and was said to eat up any malicious capacity. It was additionally said that his blade had the option to quell the evil presence of Dayven. Once more, a created story leaves Dayven as the failure when he was not. Versa approaches Vincent and requests that he talk. How could he discover that swordplay that looks like Kajin's? Vincent thought it was Khan who called him, yet that discussion is being taken care of by Versa. He is being examined regarding the starting points of his combative techniques. Yulion frantically asks Vincent not to respond to the inquiry, as she can tell the truth from lies with her eyes. In the event that Vincent says messy reasons, she will get dubious. However, at that point, how would it be advisable for him to respond? Tell her that he isn't her child, however somebody from a long time back? Yulion says he will deal with it, albeit truly he fears being found acting pointless. Yet Vincent quiets him down, and lets him know that it is only one stage to defeat his apprehensions. Vincent will venture out for him. He lets Versa know that he has gotten a disclosure. This cautions Versa, as he got a disclosure with no gift. As a rule, you can't get disclosures without gifts except if they are terrible. Yulion had not let Vincent know this, seeing that he was acting dubiously. Versa takes steps to take him to the preliminary of the Heavenly Court. Yulion requests that Vincent say equivalent to him. That's what he says on the off chance that she thinks that he is dubious, she can check with the sanctuary. In any case, on the off chance that he is malevolent, couldn't a cleric who has a position 3 supernatural occurrence stone remember him? That Marvel stone had been given to Dallin by Versa. It is the one Vincent got as a gift before. Utilizing his eyes, he understands that Vincent isn't lying. He then inquires as to whether he truly educated swordplay through a disclosure. Vincent answers that he gained some significant knowledge through disclosures. In any case, swordplay he didn't realize there. He makes reference to that he has forever had the option to pursue the secretive developments of the sword. Notwithstanding, he had pondered for a couple of days whether he ought to discover that, however he needed to change, despite the fact that it could cause doubt from various individuals. He figured doing anything would be fearful not. Julion's reality and Vincent's reality, their 2 bits of insight, can confront one another. In Versa's eyes together, they say that really at that time they might at any point beat the Samion family and satisfy the long mission of the Adinka family. He needed to show how he has become more grounded to the numerous relatives, Khan included, in light of the fact that he figured he would have the option to make the right judgment. Khan rubs his jawline. Burson rapidly understands that he does that when he is happy with something. Khan's choice is for Vincent to keep preparing combative techniques. Versa lets Khan know that she is certain he realizes that Cajun's ability is like that of the devil ruler Dayven. In the event that Vincent utilizes the legend ruler's blade, the Samion family will raise a ruckus and say that they have taken it. However, they wouldn't need to say anything assuming that the incomparable evil spirit ruler's sword utilized all things being equal. Since Khan has given his endorsement, he will be liable for everything. So Vincent should give his all to work on himself and not create problems. Vincent realizes that this is definitely not a basic advance notice. She is affirming the patriarch's choice and furthermore giving him her endorsement. Khan lets Vincent know that she has shown extraordinary outcomes in the get-together of the genuine swords. For that reason Khan will give her something she wants. Vincent needs to be more grounded. Yulion murmurs to Vincent to request that Khan let him go to the family library. Just 3-star military specialists are permitted there. Khan inquires as to whether he has figured out how to connect the thoughts in his heart. Vincent answers that he hasn't had the option to, so he might want to make a move to act like a ruined youngster. Khan concurs, permitting Vincent to enter the lower library, then advises Vincent to give Vincent the blood red lotus, the prize for satisfying his guarantee to him. The ruby lotus is the sword that Khan utilized when he was youthful and started to become famous on the planet. It is essentially the historical backdrop of the Adinka family. Yulion is glad for what they have accomplished, yet Vincent makes it clear to him that they will accomplish significantly more later on. From the outset, Yulion was disheartened that Vincent was not the sole lord, but rather he didn't think he had the option to accomplish as much by calling the sole ruler as he had expected. He can entrust Vincent with his body later. Vincent is going to leave with Wilson, yet Versa shouts to him. She lets him know that she is exceptionally pleased with him for what he has accomplished. She specifies that since he has won against Raven, he ought to enter the Ruby Post. As indicated by custom, the Blood Red Post is one of only a handful of exceptional preparation establishments that the Adinka family has. Just the individuals who complete the preparation at the fort will be perceived as full military craftsmen. The necessities for passage are the gathering of the genuine swords and the enslavement of an underneath positioning evil presence, the Blood Red Devil. Versa answers to Vincent that she doesn't know yet. She understands that Vincent's unusual developments with the sword make his body endure. Then she lets him know that it is basically impossible to polish off the Ruby Devil in one assault, so Vincent will pass on assuming he battles him in his present status. Versa is prompting him. She appears to have started to truly appreciate Vincent, and this is possible since she knows something of his story with the eye that finds lies. In the new arrangement of the ruler, she might have outlined Vincent for anything she needs, however, she didn't. Vincent interferes with her and says thanks to her for the exhortation. She was attempting to make sense of the Ruby evil spirit's characteristic, yet Vincent left without inquiring. Most likely he is a bold military craftsman. Versa is blissful as today Sarvana's child has made a major stride as a military craftsman. Wilson was working and meets this young lady, Sari, who promptly whines to him since she thinks Wilson is meddling with Minchin. Be that as it may, acknowledging how steadfast he is currently, she contemplates whether he is a Wilson as in the past. Wilson tells Sari that Vincent is in the library where just the family's military specialists can enter. In there, Vincent finds no records from a long time back. Just that time span is missing, as though it has been taken out. There are just kids' anecdotes about the Devil Lord and the Legend Ruler. As of now, Yulion suspects that somebody eradicated the records from a long time back, the sword expertise too. Somebody eradicated it or transformed it. Vincent will deal with that later. Until further notice, he should expand the quantity of his blade expertise to overcome the red evil presence. He wants a preparation strategy before the symbolism hypothesis, as right now he can't arrive at symbolism. Yulion asks Vincent for his actual personality. That's what he knows. If he discovers that he is the incomparable evil presence Dayven, Yulion will be stunned. Nonetheless, it wouldn't be deferential as he is the past proprietor of the body he has now, and the two of them share a similar destiny. Vincent reveals to Yulion his personality. In any case, after saying his name, Yulion begins acting abnormally. There is a horrendous sound in his ear. For that reason Yulion would rather not know any longer. Vincent finds a book called First Love with a Water Factory. Why would that be a book like that in the mana preparing? The chances of a sentiment book sneaking in there are low. So Vincent realizes immediately that somebody kept mysteries and that they are in that book. However, from the beginning, it is an ordinary sentiment book. In the wake of perusing a little, Vincent tells Yulion that the person in that book has no pictures, yet assuming that it has the force of affection as a characteristic, it's anything but an ordinary book. Attributes ought not be utilized to incite the progression of mana. However, the indication of characteristics ought to be finished by making mana flow to accomplish that. The entire hypothesis of symbolism must be disposed of. With symbolism, the opportunity of mana makes everything conceivable. The book recounts an individual who stacked up mana without symbolism and lived with the assistance of that book. They will actually want to show characteristics also. Yulion cautions that learning a characteristic is perilous, even with the assistance of symbolism, and equality is in abundance for a military craftsman, so they won't effectively show the stream too. Be that as it may, they most certainly track down a sign to become more grounded. Vincent needs to go for tests, however on out, he meets Sari, who definitely knows all that has occurred and is pleased with him. Vincent doesn't have the foggiest idea what her identity is. Yulion lets him know that Sari is a house cleaner who had left for some time in view of a circumstance in her loved ones. Notwithstanding everything, there was somebody who gave blind love to somebody like Minchin. Then, Raven shows up, who has a comment to Vincent. The two of them go to a room, however the air is very tense. Minutes after the fact, Raven makes reference to that he is there to compensate for the obligation to Vincent for the gathering of the genuine blades. Everything demonstrated that Raven would go after Vincent, and Vincent didn't anticipate it. Similar strategies won't neutralize Raven. Vincent requests that Sari escape from that point, yet she declines. Shockingly, Raven wasn't there to battle. He recognizes that Vincent excused him and gave him the supernatural occurrence stone so he could re-establish his arm. He has recaptured everything, his arm and his dad. However, he has not had the option to give anything back. Raven concedes he was a defeatist, yet he needs to quit being a weakling. Everything he can manage now is to swear steadfastness to Vincent. All things considered, it was anything but a lost cause, albeit Yulion frantically doesn't have any desire to accept what Raven says. In any case, he put his sword toward Vincent. It is a demonstration of giving life to somebody as a military craftsman, and he is not kidding. Yulion won't confide in Raven, however he has a thought. Vincent acknowledges Raven's vow and will likewise remain by him until the second he deceives him. Raven understands that Vincent's blade is the Red Lotus, so he'll ensure he will love swearing faithfulness. Cheerful Sari takes a gander at how Vincent has changed. The times when he was known as a failure are a distant memory. Yulion needs to have a go at something to acquire the qualities of Raven's dwarven lord's favoring. From that point, we see Versa, who converses with Khan and lets him know that Vincent plans to join the Dark Red Stronghold 1 year from now. Concerning overcoming the Ruby evil spirit, Versa comes clean with him. She planned to illuminate him about the particulars regarding the evil presence, yet Vincent wouldn't tune in. Ruby evil presences can go after with mana of the 3rd star or higher, as they have no actual structure. The explanation triumph is a transitional experience is to see the manner in which somebody faces a devil and see verification that they have mana higher than the 3rd star. For Versa, it's a notification that Raven started to visit Vincent more, with the eventual result of living there. Vincent was preparing, and Raven was directing him. This he does to attempt to acquire the Bantam Lord's approval, yet they will do as such with the techniques for the book before, as Vincent has no symbolism. Raven's devotion is tried, and for that Vincent should ponder next to him. Raven feels to some degree regrettable, yet doesn't think of it as something terrible. It is whenever a loss first feels better. In any case, he didn't expect that there would be somebody who might involve such insane strategies in the immediate genealogy. Yulion attempts to direct Vincent in light of the fact that despite the fact that Vincent is pondering, he is doing anything he desires, risking his life apiece. Raven lets Vincent know that he is excessively unconstrained, he ought to relax. Be that as it may, this is the means by which Vincent has lived. Even before, when he was Dayven, he was unable to win anything without putting his own life in danger. The reflection escalates. Yulion feels trepidation that Vincent will bite the dust at that rate, yet Vincent will compel somewhat more. The stream will be finished assuming he figures out how to interface it, yet Raven attempts to stop him as doing that is too soon. Vincent figures out how to interface the two streams, yet a major blast happens. Vincent is fine, yet he attempted to do excessively. What he attempted took Raven a portion of a year back. To these two, Khan specifies that it's a portion of a year until the following red fortification entry. This occasion might be a simple one for Vincent, as he's as of now crushed a 2-star military craftsman. That is the reason Khan will allow Vincent a month to overcome the dark red evil spirit, where Elsa is responsible for taking this message to Vincent. She is stressed in light of the fact that a month is too brief a period. At the point when she goes into the room, she tracks down a total wreck. Both Vincent and Raven are harmed from the blast. She requests a decent clarification for everything. Vincent tells her that he was simply reflecting a bit. Anything the contemplation is, Elsa lets him know that he should rush. Then, she gives him Khan's message. He should complete the soul-changing experience in a month. Yulion is amazed in light of the fact that supposedly, no time limit had at any point been set. However, that implies Khan as of now has exclusive standards of Vincent. Until a month has passed, Elsa will go with Vincent by and by as a defender, so she anticipates that he should give his all. Raven is stressed, as it will take Vincent somewhere around 2 months to get the Bantam ruler's approval. Vincent realizes he should hustle. Then again, Sari doesn't believe he should endeavor to such an extent. Then, he sees that Sari has a lot of mana, however requests that she leave as he has something to examine with Raven. Raven lets him know that 1 month isn't sufficient, they should track down an alternate way. Then, at that point, Vincent reflects once more and shows Raven the mana circuit. Incredibly, he has finished the stream. With that, he can undoubtedly arrive at the appearance. There will be compelling reasons to hang tight for a month. It will surpass Khan's assumptions. After 14 days, Vincent trains in the woods. He will begin with the appearance of the qualities, then cautions that there could be a blast like last time. So he reprimands Raven to back, however Raven demands remaining close by. Vincent starts, and Yulion has an odd inclination. Then, at that point, the Bantam Lord appears before them, however just Yulion is by all accounts ready to see him. The Bantam ruler plans to assault, however not to hurt. This is the gift of the Bantam Lord, the main characteristic of protection reinforcing the body. It is the step before the Man of Steel. Raven is shocked that Vincent made it, and it hasn't even been a month. With that, Vincent will actually want to defeat the weight of the outright blade. He has prevailed with regards to establishing the groundwork for the oppression of the blood-red devil. Vincent says thanks to Raven, yet there is another blessing he needs to request from him. After 2 days, Vincent plans to go to the lair of the Crimson Demon. Vincent makes an unexpected solicitation to Railsa. As it hasn't been a month at this point, she is worried about this. She makes reference to that she has safeguarded the people who take part in that transitional experience multiple times, both Khan and Vincent's siblings and the others throughout the entire existence of the Adinka faction, and there has not been one who has bombed the test. So without a doubt, Sarvana's child can't be quick to bomb the test. Sarvana is Vincent's mom, in the event that it's as yet not satisfactory. Vincent advises Railsa that she doesn't have anything to stress over. He has this. They are en route to the mission. Vincent could do without having a gatekeeper on a mission like that. However, Yulion lets him know that there is plunder from the Ruby Evil Presence. What's more, Vincent should be watched. Railsa inquires as to whether he has learned about the blood-red evil presence. He tells her that he wants 3 stars in addition to mana. That is the initial step to enslave the devil. In Railsa's eyes, Vincent actually doesn't arrive at 3 stars. Vincent tells her not to stress. The red devil is the main beast he should enslave. It's anything but a beast he needs to read up for. Railsa additionally cautions him not to let his gatekeeper down. Railsa endeavors to help Vincent in light of the fact that she is Vincent's watchman and defender. Vincent again helps Railsa to remember the spending plan misappropriation and suspects she gave him a shortcoming to hook onto intentionally. Yet, regardless if Railsa would rather not discuss it, that is fine, since she didn't get some information about Vincent's preparation. They are even. Minutes after the fact, they at last show up at the Red Evil Presence's refuge. However, it has no accurate name. It is known as the Old Sanctuary. This in memory of Father Arslan subsequent to bringing down one of the remaining parts of the extraordinary evil presence Dayven Arslan. Notwithstanding the red evil presence, Vincent accepts it is no occurrence. Said Railsa plans to make a mana boundary at a level that just permits a solitary beast to go through the obstruction. Then, the red evil presence shows up before them. Vincent unsheathes his sword and advises Railsa to look cautiously and report back precisely everything she will see. The dark red evil presence assaults Vincent. Yulion advises him to evade and afterward get a decent way to utilize the outright blade slice, yet Vincent denies, as expanding the distance between the two will be more invaluable to the one with the more drawn-out weapon. Anticipation is smarter to draw nearer, and that is the very thing he does. Vincent crashes his sharp edge into the evil presence while telling him not to try and contemplate utilizing the grass cutter. Going after very close against a major weapon is great, yet Railsa could perceive how Vincent's exhibition was fantastic, despite the fact that it was his most memorable genuine battle at 14 years old. Maybe he had sufficient experience in the wake of having oppressed the ruby evil spirit often previously. The Bantam ruler's characteristic is unimaginable. It permits Vincent to move an undeveloped body in an extremely ideal manner. However, that is just the reason for finding the method of the blade for the outright sword slice. Then, Vincent sees the chance to build the distance between the two. The blood-red evil presence is exceptionally forceful. Notwithstanding, he should be focused on after continually shielding himself, so the following assault he will utilize will be a major one, which will cause him to have a great deal of openings. Against a rival with a ton of openings, getting the blade path is extremely simple. Vincent will decrease the backlash of outright blade cuts with his quality. Minutes after the fact, Vincent figures out how to overcome the dark red devil, or so he thought, since he doesn't realize that the justification for why you can't curb the red evil spirit with a solitary assault is on the grounds that the ruby evil spirit has a subsequent life. The dark red evil presence assaults Vincent utilizing its other life. Be that as it may, Vincent figures out how to chop it down. Indeed, even that is equivalent to a long time back. However, the evil presence is very quick, and surprisingly its appearance has changed, and that implies that they developed over those 500 years. At the point when a blood-red evil spirit is restored, it goes off the deep end. The speed and strength they have increments. Vincent continues to evade the assaults. It is very perilous. Moreover, the retreat course on the wall is impeded, and the evil presence gives no relief. Then, Yulion notices the sanctuary to Vincent. He demands that they should change the plans, yet Vincent needs to make the devil bring down his defenses. The devil thinks something very similar to corner Vincent for a last assault. At the point when the evil presence is completely ready for the last assault, at that point, Vincent will do the arrangement. Railsa is a simple manager, and if she somehow happened to interfere with, it would be a disappointment for Vincent. So she implores Sarvana that her child can win. Then, Railsa has a flashback with Sarvana. She contacted her. Railsa made do by taking on the line of the country. Sarvana requested that she join her. Right away, Railsa thought Sarvana was insane. There, she additionally met Khan and Versa. They had no real option except to acknowledge Railsa going along with them. Notwithstanding, Railsa wound up joining an experience that would turn into the legend of Attica. They crushed a monster. Rails had diverted while Sarvana went after from behind. Sarvana was a major area of strength for the truly lovely. She had the ability to make individuals grin. Over the course of Railsa's life, Sarvana was a beam of light. Until the day came when Sarvana passed on, this in the wake of bringing forth Vincent. Yet, that was not an opportunity to be miserable. Railsa promised to safeguard the youngster that Sarvana abandoned from the hard existence of being an immediate genealogy of Attica until he turned into a good military craftsman. Be that as it may, Vincent was scorned even by his siblings. Railsa considered, for quite some time, the treatment Vincent got. The second she discovers that Vincent was perceived by Khan, she at last starts to see trust. She doesn't believe Vincent should surrender. The Red Devil is going to go after Vincent. Unexpectedly, Vincent calls Raven, and he seems to obstruct the evil presence's assault. Railsa is astonished when she sees Raven's presence. Then, Vincent contemplates what is happening. It is risky since, in such a case that Raven is pushed, and surprisingly, a little effect hits him, Vincent will kick the bucket. The battle among Raven and the evil spirit proceeds. He utilizes Man of Steel to hinder the devil's assaults, then incites him, which causes the evil presence's wrath. Raven's sword can't get the impact of the Man of Steel. That's what the red evil presence understands, so he points directly at the blade until he figures out how to break it. Without a sword, Raven will not have the option to safeguard Vincent. The evil presence assaults with his sickle. Raven figures out how to hold it for an extremely brief time frame before he figures out how to cut him, yet he will not have the option to oppose for a really long time. Be that as it may, He worked effectively in light of the fact that Vincent had proactively finished the reflection. The outright sword slice strategy was finished, and with one blow, Vincent figures out how to raise a ruckus around town. Evil Spirit's center finally overcomes him. He then, at that point, says thanks to Raven for the assistance. While that was Vincent's arrangement, Raelsa praises him. However, she doesn't know Khan is good with Vincent finding support. He should be there to surpass Khan's assumptions, right? Vincent lets Raelsa know that she has controlled the mana boundary, so just a single beast could be in it on the grounds that the first as of now passed on. The other one will come in to get them. The enslavement before was for Raven. In this one, presently, Vincent will show what he can do. Then, Vincent eats the Marvel Stone to fortify his body. Indeed, even with this, he can utilize outright blade cuts 2 times. He can't gauge the presentation of the Wonderstone. It is thus that he needed to ponder. Vincent hardens his body and sits tight for the right second. The red evil spirit center is uncovered as it recovers from the harm it takes. Against so many rival openings, it is a lot more straightforward to get away for the blade utilizing outright sword slice. Vincent figures out how to cut the evil spirit center in 2. Rails, who was stressing for no good reason, saw that Vincent had a perfect presentation. Be that as it may, his body was totally exhausted. Yulion considers what sort of swordsmanship is that to be in that state in the wake of utilizing it multiple times, with the characteristic, the contemplation, and the Wonderstone. With practically no of that, it could never have been conceivable. Yulion requests that Vincent rests as Raelsa will move him. Yet Vincent explains that it resembles the gathering of the genuine blades. The genuine victor is the person who holds out eventually. Vincent will not fall. Everything appeared to be quiet, yet out of nowhere, a calling circle was initiated. Raelsa was cautioned as she had never seen anything like this. It was an artifact watchman or a Pokemon, but you need to check it out. The way that such an enormous watchman has not been found as of recently implies that all things considered, this gatekeeper was made along with the sanctuary. Beam additionally orders the watchman to uncover his central goal to the immediate genealogy of the Adinka family, and to extend regard. However, without much of any result, it doesn't work as expected on the grounds that the thing is excessively old. Raelsa requests that Raven go for notice, and they stroll away. Beam likewise utilizes her strategy of Balavian swordsmanship. The 7th section then utilizes a capacity to freeze the watchman until at long last cutting him. That is the level of a 7th star, yet it's not finished at this point. Vincent understands this and uses his last solidarity to cut that way with his sword. It was on the grounds that there was a little watchman not too far off. However, truth be told, that was the genuine type of the gatekeeper from previously. Be that as it may, Vincent didn't figure out how to hit it, and presently it's going towards Raven. Development Beam likewise utilizes one more of her strategies to move rapidly toward the 2 of them, lastly cutting the watchman. Raelsa was reckless from the outset, which made her miss the presence of the gatekeeper's actual structure, presumably as a result of how old that design is. Notwithstanding, Vincent figured out how to see and cautioned her. Minutes after the fact, they understood that what the watchman was monitoring was only that inside that container was a dead winged serpent bone, a mythical beast skeleton. It seems to be an artifact left by the pioneer Arson. A mythical serpent skeleton is a very intriguing supernatural fixing. It is a fortune whose worth can't be estimated. It appears to be the justification for why Arsalan made a transitional experience. Raelsa gives the scale mediation since of all the Adinka who went through, he was the person who tracked down it. Vincent makes reference to that such plunder would be family ownership through presbytery. Raelsa would be in a difficult situation in the event that anybody found out, yet she explains that it is an issue she can manage. Having said this, Vincent gets up and cuts the skeleton in 2. He chooses to be Raelsa's accessory, as he would not have anything if not for her. Raelsa goes to see Khan, who was at the burial place of the Adinkam patriarchs. She advises him that Vincent's custom regarding section has been finished. She lets him know that what she saw was exceptionally perfect. Railsa lets him know that Raven was impacted by Vincent, and put his own life in extreme danger to get the dark red evil spirit's assault, while Vincent figured out how to stifle the devil. Khan is frustrated as Vincent should battle alone. However, Beam additionally likewise lets him know that Vincent crushed one more ruby evil spirit all alone and furthermore found the mythical serpent skeleton abandoned by the pioneer Arsalan. That is around 50% of that Vincent imparted to her. Grovel advises Railsa to break the winged serpent skeleton, an immediate request. She stops. Railsa utilizes North Twist, yet notwithstanding this, she neglects to break it. Khan tells her this is on the grounds that you must be a 5-star fighter to break a winged serpent skeleton. In any case, we should recollect that Vincent broke it before with no issue. Pawn is certain that soon it will be his chance to bite the dust as Vincent has an exceptional power. Grovel requests that Railsa care for Vincent. Vincent gets back. Wilson was concerned, yet Sari let him know that Vincent should rest due to the delayed consequences of the evil presence of oppression. Wilson inquires as to whether he truly needs to go to the dark red stronghold. Obviously he should. He fears this spot in light of the fact that the dark red stronghold has unnerving beasts, and surprisingly, really frightening military craftsmen. Vincent continues seeing the mana moving from Sari's body and tells Yulion, who never saw this. Vincent saw mana stream like one from a long time back. Then, at that point, asks Sari what her family name is. She has a place with the demolished Hisley family. It is similar as Vincent thought. She has an otherworldly body. The Hisley family is a family that concentrated on mana and the body. They are additionally the ones who found the sublime EX exoskeleton. The Hisley have a method called enchantment body, like the magnificent exoskeleton. A strategy can bring mana into the body. This truly intends that assuming the enchanted body remains, it can keep the great exoskeleton from falling. Vincent inquires as to whether she discovers much else about the Hisley family, about any older folks in the family, yet she remarks that her grandma died, and the main history she knew was her. Yulion considers how a family was demolished by such a procedure. Vincent answers that it very well may be a Samion family thing, which seems okay in the event that somebody attempted to conceal the presence of the radiant exoskeleton. They need to quiet the people who found it. Sari remembers something different. There was someone else. Vincent's mom, Sarvana, was likewise a set of experiences. Indeed, even Yulion is whenever he first hears it, yet this is on the grounds that referencing Sarvana's name was taboo. This since Khan generally appeared to be miserable when that name was referenced. Wilson makes reference to that they are there due to Sarvana, particularly Railsa, who was at her most minimal when Sarvana viewed her. Sarvana was an astonishing individual. Railsa goes into space to report that Raven is leaving. He makes reference to that they as of now have the dark red devil, and he can't remain there until the end of time. Be that as it may, Vincent asks Raven for another blessing, to investigate the historical backdrop of the Hisley family quite a while back. It appears to have been altered by somebody, yet perhaps the guarantee lines weren't contacted. Something like the affection book they experienced before. They concur it's an arrangement. The two of them bid farewell and desire to see each other soon. Raven vows to become more grounded when they meet once more. Vincent inquires as to whether she is caring to him as an approach to reimbursing Sarvana. She says okay. Then Vincent asks her for some help, not as Sarvana's child, but rather as Vincent Adinka. Until he enters the dark red post, Vincent believes that Railsa should prepare him. After some thought, Railsa concerns, however, cautioning Vincent that she won't ease off of him. The preparation between the two starts. Vincent can gain proficiency with a quality without symbolism, however for that, he really wants a mana circuit with a characteristic. Beam likewise won't utilize the weapon she utilized against the Watchman, the Dark Moon. She lets Vincent know that he will confront that blade when he is commendable. He has 5 months until the Ruby fortification. Assuming he figures out how to hurt Railsa something like once, she will concede him the quality he wants. Vincent fears hurting Raelsa as he did Raven, yet she is nothing similar to him. Raelsa moves rapidly towards Vincent, who just barely safeguards himself. Raelsa knows the force of the blade way well overall, which is the reason she won't allow Vincent an opportunity to utilize it. The thorough search in Raelsa's eyes was that of an individual who could kill somebody. Raelsa definitely realizes that Vincent is a companion of the cleric Dallin, so on the off chance that they need assistance, they will go to him. Multi-week after the fact, the preparation proceeds. Raelsa actually enjoys the upper hand over Vincent. Nonetheless, he doesn't give multiple assaults, as that would be a lot for him, so they will stop there. Raelsa has seen a ton of progress in Vincent, yet the sword he is utilizing breaks once more. She has lost count of how frequently she has changed swords over the most recent couple of days, so she goes to whine to the metalworker. Raelsa tells the smithy, whose name is Hansen, that since the last time they met, it doesn't appear to be that the title of expert is the main thing he has lost. She cautions him that it would be an issue assuming that he supplies garbage in Atenka's ordnance. Raelsa shows every one of the messed up blades to Hansen. He finds it bizarre and even inquires as to whether she has battled with an evil presence with sharp hooks of some sort, or another, or against nearly 9-star fighter, or with some expert of the blade, as it has not been the situation. She answers that she has just been preparing with Vincent. Raelsa, joined by Hansen, goes to see Vincent. This is on the grounds that she needs to know why Vincent has the ruby lotus. Hansen was the person who manufactured that weapon. Yulion remembers him. He is a popular smithy other than being a close buddy of Khan and an expert who used to have a place with Rinka. Indeed, he used to be an expert, however not presently. Hansen has been making great cereal items for a really long time without making a sword. The metalworker was disregarded on the grounds that he was dazed by cash. That is the reason he lost his honor, and isn't situated in Attica. Vincent recognizes that Hansen is staggering, as many individuals had the option to safeguard themselves because of him. Hansen focused on others over his own honor. Vincent introduces himself to him in a differential manner, which satisfies Hansen. Vincent lets Hansen know that he went with the ideal choice by following the way he picked. Right away, Hansen recalls that Khan once let him know exactly the same thing. He starts to accept that this sort of disposition runs in his loved ones. Hansen concedes that he assumed he was the appalling Vincent, however presently knows that these were simply reports. Hansen asks him for the dark red lotus to watch out for the state of the blade. Having involved this sword for preparation, Hansen is astonished in light of the fact that the cutting edge isn't harmed in any way. Maybe it's anything but a blade, yet the strength of a man. Hansen asks Vincent what kind of swordsmanship he utilizes. Vincent denies. Yulion likewise, as Vincent has utilized the 2 charges of the swordsmanship ability today. Finch knows about that, yet it's rare out of every odd day you meet an expert, so he would rather not pass up on the open door. Sari appears and lets Hansen know that he ought to fall asleep. They know one another on the grounds that Hansen has been supporting kids out of luck, and Sari was one of them. They are like dad and little girl. Vincent lets Hansen know that he will see him at the studio tomorrow. Hansen bids farewell. Vincent can now see where Sari's warm heart comes from. The following morning, as guaranteed, mission involves the dark red lotus before Hansen. Hansen gets a peculiar sword. It resembles the legend of a legend and the evil spirit ruler. Presently he can see that it isn't in vain that Vincent was given the ruby lotus. Hansen specifies that he is keen on Vincent, practically enough to need to make him a blade. In any case, one thing is absent. Hansen has had a blade as a main priority for quite a while, however it needs intriguing materials. So Vincent will attempt to get it. A valuable mineral can't be gotten in any event for an expense. It is called mastodon horn. Both Vincent and Yulion see each other's countenances since they, as of now, have one. Could Hansen at any point truly make a blade out of it? Hansen is shocked that Vincent has something like this. Vincent requests that he stay silent, as it is something just Khan and Railsa know. Hansen will presently make him a sword. However, Vincent inquires as to whether it is feasible to add the horn to Red Lotus as opposed to making a totally new sword, as that edge represents the start of Khan's profession. What's more, Red Lotus is astonishing, and Vincent likes it a great deal. All things considered, Hansen consents to Vincent's solicitation and will add the horn to Blood Red Lotus in 3 weeks or less. After 3 weeks, they go to see Hansen and observe that the studio is ablaze. Vincent requests that Sari control herself. For her to be astounded this way, something strange occurred in the smithy. Vincent chooses to go get Hansen all alone. His sword can slice through anything. He will cut the fire and the entryway on the double, despite the fact that Yulion lets him know it's crazy. Vincent does it in any case as he enters. Yulion imagines attractive obliviousness. Yulion additionally understands that there is blood red lotus there. Everything demonstrated that the mana was spilling over. The winged serpent skeleton was a lot more grounded than Hansen expected, yet they should deal with getting him to somewhere safe first. However, before long, Vincent understands that the exit is obstructed. Yulion inquires as to whether he knows any cautious procedure in light of the fact that regardless of assuming that it is the mythical serpent skeleton, he will not have the option to keep the flares for eternity. Vincent has something, a sword strategy implied exclusively for guard. He is Vincent Adinka, however he was likewise Dayven Samion. Vincent utilizes Samion's swordsmanship. The smooth blade breaks steel. The nature of his mana relies upon his will. Gradually, he strikes the progression of flares moving toward him with an endlessly quiet sword. Yulion was shocked to observe the Samion swordsmanship, yet he actually doesn't have the foggiest idea about Vincent's actual character. Inevitably, the flares at long last subsided. Hansen recaptures awareness and understands that Vincent utilized the Samion swordsmanship. Assuming that Hansen had the option to perceive the expertise, Vincent guesses it isn't completely neglected. However, the best part is that the sword is finished. Hansen lets him know that he should hold it, yet he should accomplish something with the fire. As he contacts the sword, Vincent feels the vibe of the sharp edge impacting him. It is an incredible blade. Then, Yulion noticed something odd. Assuming this was completely organized by the Patriarch Arson, couldn't he realize that the mythical serpent skeleton could act along these lines? Had it been him, he would have left a few safety measures. Perhaps the mythical beast bone was passed on to rehearse before the following winged serpent skeleton. Seeing this, Vincent requests that Hansen make him another sword. He is certain that since he has made one, the following one will be far and away superior, in spite of the fact that Hansen specifies that it will require some investment, as he needs to tidy up the entire wreck. Plus, he has no winged serpent skeletons any longer, and he doesn't figure he will be alive for whenever there is one. In any case, what Hansen doesn't know is that there is really another, the piece that Railsa has. Hansen's mouth drops open at seeing another winged serpent bone, however Railsa advises him to quiet down. Just Khan is familiar with that. Hansen doesn't have the foggiest idea what amount of time it will require, however he will make an ideal sword. Vincent apologizes to Railsa, as that piece of bone was initially implied for her. In any case, it doesn't make any difference since she previously got full installment for the mythical beast skeleton quite a while back when an exceptional hero was conceived. Vincent lets Railsa know that she will be more than fulfilled. Likewise, with the assistance of the new sword, she will realize every one of her moves and route her. Be that as it may, Railsa doesn't withdraw a solitary step. The preparation among Vincent and Railsa proceeds, even with the overhauled Blood Red Lotus. Vincent isn't having the option to face Railsa. However, basically he figures out how to repel the assaults, despite the fact that she is utilizing her power at level 4. Plus, Red Lotus is as yet flawless. Vincent strikes back, and Railsa barely evades. The stream and force of the blade are unique in relation to previously. The blade can't break thanks to the Bantam ruler's quality. Ruby Lotus ingests all assaults, a blade that retains the quality of the clients. This is the new force of Dark Red Lotus. Railsa lets him know that Dark Red Lotus has become all the more remarkable. Considering that, Railsa will go somewhat more serious. She vanishes and moves rapidly around Vincent, who chooses not to get snatched up by the speed and decides to feel the mana she uses to move. She assaults yet to some unacceptable spot. In any case, she figures out how to hold Railsa's blade utilizing just her hands. She is shocked as Vincent has had the option to identify her developments in a month. Vincent utilizes a twofold sword strike. Railsa got no harm. In any case, she lost her sword, in spite of the fact that Vincent gives it back to her, as he would rather not win in such a messy manner. She lets him know that this was a demonstration of haughtiness, as not every single military craftsman and beasts will be delicate with him. Adversaries who are more grounded than Vincent won't show any compassion. She makes it clear to him that he should recollect that. While she expanded her quality, Railsa plans to assault. However, as she does as such, she implodes. Vincent holds her up as well as injuring her a little on the brow. There are 4 months left prior to going to the Red Fort. Railsa asks Vincent how he made it happen. He answers that even with a twofold sword strike, it would have been difficult to hit her. Notwithstanding, he slices through the mana around her. This impeded her characteristic. She didn't have the foggiest idea about this was conceivable. In this way, Vincent winds up unbelievable all assumptions as he won. Railsa needs to stay faithful to her obligation. She needs to enlighten him regarding her approval, the progression of mana from the universe vagabond. Afterward, Vincent is contemplating. Railsa lets Vincent know that when he allows the mana to course through the way, it will start to show. Yulion was somewhat scared of what could occur. However, minutes after the fact, he saw the presence of something. In the meantime, in the Red Fort, senior member Vargon Pagoda and Dean Herka Suppress were meeting. She sees that Vincent is among the closest to enter the Ruby Stronghold. Bargain actually accepts the tales that Vincent is a failure, so he figures he will not accomplish anything in the Ruby Post. So before Vincent joins, he needs to stop him no matter what. We return to Vincent pondering. Yulion notified the presence of another person. The Cosmic Drifter's favoring characteristic comprises just a single step. After it was freezing, Yulion understands that the young lady vanished. The name of this quality comes from the way that it has portability that leaves no follow, even in the snow. It is called Ice Walk. Afterward, Yulion lets Vincent know that the Red Fort is to a greater degree a genuine fort rather than a preparation school. That spot is situated in the mountains lining Samion. Previously, when the devotees of the Arcane Mon attacked Samion, Arsalan, similar to the legends of that time, filled in as a safeguard there, and it was viewed as a preparation school. Vincent figures they could find something different left by Arsalan, perhaps another bone. Yulion couldn't say whether it's a skeleton, however there is likewise an unbelievable fortune there. It's known as the magnificent organic product. It is more powerful than some other solutions. There are even bits of gossip that one of them can raise the dead. There is likewise a great natural product tree, a tree that produces a huge number of such natural products. The Ruby Stronghold is supposed to be a pot for a huge number of natural product trees. Previously, Yulion could not have possibly trusted such a legend, yet taking a gander at the circumstance now, he contemplates whether the following objective will be to get the glorious natural product. With it, they will mend Vincent's body and depart. Whenever they are signed up for the Ruby Fort, they will have 9 years left. In any case, Vincent figures it very well may be less. All things considered, they will find the privileged insights of the wonderful foods grown from the ground. As per the data got by Vincent, he should fight for himself without the monetary help of the family in the Blood Red Fort. This is to try not to cheat with cash, so they should get their own cash. Yet, it doesn't make any difference since Yulion put resources into a spot called the 6th Wizardry Pinnacle. In the event that the Adinka and Samion families are known for their swordsmanship, the 6th Wizardry Pinnacle is known for being a first-class mage course. There you can support research mages and get back cash as a commitment. The mage Yulion put resources into, whose name is Varnelli Pagoda, has quite recently turned into the co-proprietor of the Pinnacle. The terrible piece, all things considered, is that the speculation will go to waste when Varnelli kicks the bucket, yet could somebody like her bite the dust simply? Indeed, obviously, yes. What misfortune. Later on, Varnelli's demise is accounted for, and they accept she kicked the bucket in a blast during an examination. However, actually she was killed, expressing farewell to Julian's cash. Without the cash, Vincent will starve to death in the stronghold. Varnelli passed on the entirety of his assets and exploration to his more youthful sibling, Vargon Pagoda, indeed, the person from previously. That's what he regrets. In spite of being a pagoda, he never accomplished remotely close to the potential that Varnelli had. All things considered, Vincent needs to look for Vargon. The time remaining is 4 months, and he should accumulate however much data as he can and become areas of strength for as could be expected up to that point. After 4 months, in the mountains of the Red Fort, Vincent was on his way along with Railsa and Sari. However, they arrived where, for security, they should walk. Railsa lets Vincent know that assuming he follows that way, the overseer of the Ruby fortification will come to direct him. Vincent doesn't have the foggiest idea how to offer thanks to Railsa. She requests that he deal with himself. Vargon illuminates the headmistress that Vincent will show up soon. She finds this irritating as it isn't her style to be formal and guide individuals. Then, through this stone, they address Herka and tell her that as of late there have been beasts attacking the neighborhood homes around the area. Herka will go. As all things considered, it is her obligation as headmistress to safeguard the occupants of the stronghold. In any case, they tell her that since it is a frail beast, to send another person. However, Herka disregards this and leaves. With respect to Vincent, Vargon must choose the option to direct him. Vargon sees that Vincent was joined by Railsa. He had heard that Vincent was a slacker, yet he didn't anticipate that he should be so futile to the place where he really wants areas of strength for somebody Railsa to care for him. One of the gatekeepers inquires as to whether they will bring down the trouble of the test, yet he answers that it will be equivalent to the earlier years. All things considered, Vargon needs to kill Vincent before he gets an opportunity to enter the post. All things considered, the primary test, the enslavement of the deceptive beast, starts. Back with Vincent and the others, they can as of now see the ruby post, however abruptly, it begins to gleam. Vincent definitely realized that the testing of the fortification had begun. In these most recent 4 months, he has become exceptionally good. The time had come to test the strength he got from preparing with Railsa. Vincent is directly before a beast, the most grounded hunter of the blanketed mountain, the blue-looked-at white tiger. Vincent tells Sari and Wilson that when he is carefully concealed, they should run as quickly as possible to the dark red post. Vincent runs and grabs the beast's eye. Assuming it is the sort of delicate blue-looked tiger he knows, it will respond to the quick developments of the objective. Thus it does. Vincent grabs its eye. Nonetheless, something doesn't feel right. Despite the fact that it seems to be a white-blue pear-toward tiger, it doesn't appear as though one. It doesn't feel like a living beast. However, that doesn't change the way that he will overcome it at any rate. At the point when Vincent assaults him, another shows up. Vincent figures out how to avoid them by hopping. There are not 2, not 3. There are significantly more. There are 18 altogether. Julian lets him know that it will be difficult to overcome them all with only 2 hits of outright blade cut. Yet, Vincent actually thinks something similar. Something doesn't add up about this present circumstance. These beasts don't generally go in packs. They are the most grounded hunters, so they don't have to. Also, despite the fact that they are savage, they don't emanate blood embodiments. Julian lets him know that they should be deceptions made with wizardry, thus it is. They are deceptions made by Vargon, who contemplates whether Vincent previously took note. Yet, in spite of that, nothing will change. At his high position of calling deceptive sorcery, there's a little distinction between genuine tigers and those deceptions. Plus, they are more astute. In the event that a human is controlling them, Vincent says they are just a little, as though they are tigers made of high-positioning enchantment. The client will run out of mana soon. In any case, Yulion lets him know it's unthinkable, as they should utilize a gathering component. That is a technique for utilizing different spells of a similar sort simultaneously. Rather than utilizing various spells, one is assigned as its gathering component. It makes duplicates advantageously, decreasing mana utilization. This intends that assuming they assume control over the assigned one, all the others will vanish. Vincent could tell on the grounds that a human controls the tigers. In those examples, a genuine beast would be in the forefront, though on the off chance that it is a human, it will attempt to safeguard the gathering component. The one that is up the slope and not moving, that is the get-together component. Vincent utilizes the attribute he gained from Railsa to move rapidly utilizing Frostwalk, arriving at the gathering component in a moment. Vargon would rather not let Vincent move any further. Vincent utilizes Red Lotus, which has been fortified with the mythical beast skeleton, to assimilate Vargon's mana properties. Utilizing outright sword cut joined with the cosmic vagabond's favoring characteristic permits him to effectively polish off the rival, making the other tigers vanish. Similarly, as he had planned, Vargon acknowledges something Vincent didn't bring down the deception. What he did was separate the mana circuit. Vincent most certainly has a profound comprehension of sorcery. It seems as though the time is now for Vargon to swallow his words. Since Vargon's sorcery has been bowed, he must choose the option to clear a path to get Vincent. The Red Stronghold is normally a central command for military craftsmen, and finding mages of that level is not normal. Yulion answers that all signs are that the exploration they did was right. At the entryways of the post, Sari and Wilson were sitting tight for Vincent. Vargon, Varnelli's more youthful sibling, is a mage who assumes control over the useful work of the post. Vargon and the others invite Vincent, yet, it's basically impossible that they're giving out their souls. Shinzu was a Seijo, an expression from a game. Vincent at last meets Vargon. Yulion notices that they can't bring the family assets to the fortification, however there is a sponsorship framework. A gifted recruit can be supported by the fort, so they will get the essential focuses with that individual and get back all the cash they put resources into the enchanted pinnacle. Ideally, there are a considerable amount of individuals in the fort, kids from different families, teachers, ministers, troopers. Subsequently, Vincent will have a gathering life in a dorm, yet it won't be awkward for him. Vargon adds that living there will include being a recruit of the fort. Any remaining personalities will be disposed of. Vincent will wear a similar uniform as these young ladies, yet it will be given to him tomorrow. Vincent gets some information about enchantment when he comes from a group of military craftsmen. Yulion expresses that since he was forsaken at hand-to-hand fighting, he has investigated everything. Vincent answers that since information is power, he doesn't believe separating things that way is confounded. Vargon is astounded to see the certainty and ability Vincent has. He can't comprehend how he was known as a slacker. Vincent has something to ask Vargon, and he cuts to the chase. How would you get this supernatural occurrence organic product? Vargon thinks this is only a legend, so he answers Vincent that perhaps the great organic product picks its proprietor. Yulion nicely understands that Vargon likewise believes the great organic product to be a simple legend. All signs are that acquiring data will be precarious. Inevitably, they at last show up at the Position 9 dorms. The workers Sari and Wilson will live on the principal floor, while Vincent will dwell on the third floor. Then, Vargon hands Vincent the decoration demonstrating that he is a Position 9 recruit. Vargon shows Vincent the welcome hello to the Ruby Stronghold. Vincent shows up at his home where there were more individuals who were acting unusual. He even thinks it is on the grounds that he accomplished something wrong. Then, at that point, this person calls him a deadbeat. He is the Position 9 trainee direct agent, the sixth child of the Atinka family, Malone. Vincent has no clue about what his identity is, yet Yulion makes it clear to him that this individual is his more established sibling and is irritating him the most. Malone drives him to eat refuse. Vincent sees that Malone is a person whose day-to-day existence is to menace the powerless with power, and those activities influence individuals in the room too. Since Malone soils the Adinka's honor, he intends to chide him a piece. Yulion concurs, and startlingly, he shakes his hand. Malone eases off a little, saying they weren't the nearest family, yet this was all Vincent's arrangement to ridicule Malone. Despite the fact that he left town a long while prior, he's as yet a person who's rank 9, for reasons unknown. Malone pummels a person named Saizen on the grounds that he should instruct the novices. This person helps Vincent a ton to remember getting, which brings back severe recollections. Minutes after the fact, Vincent hits Malone upside the head, leaving everybody in the room in shock. This angers Malone, and he needs to retaliate. Vincent gained from that period that they couldn't care less about combative techniques. Easily, Vincent figures out how to bring Malone down and addresses everybody in the room, letting them know that the main trepidation they are permitted is regard, as the best way to turn into a military craftsman is to conquer their feelings of dread. Once more, Malone gets up and attempts to go after Vincent with a sword, yet Vincent figures out how to evade the assault. Yulion lets him know that assuming he truly does well in that situation, he can transform it into an open door. In the meantime, in Ala, a town close to the stronghold, Herka figures out how to overcome the beasts that were following the occupants. They need to get her a beverage as a thank you, however she's working and can't do that. In any case, it's rude to deny a greeting, so she acknowledges. Behind her is Vargon, who as of now understands that Herka is burning through her time and is irate. At the point when they are drinking, Vargon tells Herka that Vincent figured out how to track down the gathering component and obliterated it. However, she has no clue about what this implies, as she isn't a mage. So, Vincent knew about and knew how to bring down something that even a Position 7 military craftsman had never known about. She's not shocked, as another immediate relative destroyed the entire mountain or something to that effect. Vincent sounds somewhat more faint-hearted to her. She then snickers at Vargon and lets him know that he should be excited to have found somebody more apprehensive than himself. Be that as it may, they can't talk any further on the grounds that they have proactively been educated about the episode among Malone and Vincent. They require the presence of a middle person during a battle. This young lady called Braun, an educator in the Class 9 residence, apologizes to Vargon on the grounds that, in any case, she acknowledged the trainee's solicitation. Both Vincent and Malone are dependent upon disciplinary activity for causing an unsettling influence in the dorm. Yet, since Vincent was in a recruit's uniform, he'll allow it to slide that time. With the support of the Ruby Post and the proportion of a conflict, the two can contend, however Vargon trusts they do as such with honor. Malone is terrified when he sees the blood-red lotus. He even believes it's a fake item, and wags his right wrist that the sword is a phony. Vincent lets him know that he should get a sense of ownership with having expressed those words. Malone utilizes his quality, which is terrorizing, to impart dread in his adversary. However, Vincent is correct, a sword conveyor shouldn't fear another. He can disregard the impacts of terrorizing with soul and assurance. Malone imagines that the capacity doesn't influence him since he is a piece far away. Then, at that point, Malone assaults with his mana and blade, however Vincent was behind him and hit him there. He understands that Vincent can utilize Frostwalk, which permits him to build his powerful areas of strength. At long last, Vincent figures out how to overcome him. Everybody realized that Malone was a slime bucket, yet he stood firm on the footing of recruit delegates because of the mind-boggling strength he had among the 10th class. However, Vincent shakes that position now. A young lady named Selbra considers what they are doing there, and she sees Malone lying on the floor. The kid close to her respects Vincent and needs to become like him. Nonetheless, Subra lets him know that it's not finished at this point, as Malone's terrorizing is an independently obtained trademark. He has an exceptionally intriguing intrinsic insurance. Yulion maintained that Vincent should continue hitting Malone, yet Malone sees something odd. Despite the fact that Malone's blade fell, Vargon actually hasn't pronounced triumph. This is on the grounds that not long after, Malone gets up utilizing power. It's the gift of the lightning Goliath. Things appear to have gotten somewhat confused for Vincent. Malone's assault harms retribution, and Malone is utilizing the microcurrent lift attribute. Yulion is confused in light of the fact that Malone's attribute should be the scare quality. Malone specifies that this capacity is new, as he learned it subsequent to showing up at the stronghold. Vincent asks him for what valid reason he concealed it for a really long time. He answers that he wasn't concealing anything, it just irritated him. With the threatening quality, nobody his age could overcome him, and he didn't think going through the agonizing and hard training was important. When the opportunity arrives, the stronghold will have no real option except to allow him to graduate since he is an immediate relative, and he, in contrast to others, doesn't feel he needs to fill in as hard. Vincent advises him to quit rambling and clarifies that Malone's power is something an individual works for what seems like forever and never accomplishes. He brings up that Malone isn't just evading the obligation of that hour, yet he likewise overlooks and stomps all over the endeavors of others and the standing of the Adinka family name. Malone taunts Vincent for having a harmed arm and lets him know that he possibly has the option to express things like this assuming he overcomes him. Malone dispatches an assault on Vincent. Vincent quits fooling around and evades. Malone had before guaranteed that Dark Red Lotus was phony, and Vincent expected to accept his right wrist as he said. Vincent has utilized one of the 2 hits he has on the fanciful beasts, and he intends to end the battle utilizing the force of the Bantam ruler, an outright blade cut. Yet, Malone doesn't permit it, and starts tossing many assaults against Vincent, who attempts to avoid everything. Vargon looks as Malone is tipsy all alone and isn't controlling himself by any means. He's obliterating everything. Some trash is going to fall on Sari, however Vargon safeguards her. He then, at that point, advises Braun to clear every one of the trainees while he magically transports Sari to somewhere safe and secure. In any case, he sees that Sari's body is canvassed in mana. Malone keeps on gaining out of influence, and Vincent perceives that it is an exceptionally strong quality, yet he has a ton of openings he really wants to exploit. Vincent utilizes Frostwalk to attempt to get to the middle, however he makes a stumble, and the battle is getting confused. Vincent is near his cutoff, and Vargon concedes that it was his carelessness that things wound up along these lines. He ought to have put the mana boundary before the battle began. Vincent hops on the mana obstruction utilizing his last ice walk, and when Malone gets ready to assault, he falls into Vincent's snare, which breaks the hindrance and makes Malone's assault emerge from it, raising a ruckus around town and causing a breakdown. Vincent lets Malone know that a military craftsman's statement is heavier than whatever else, so he follows through with what he said and cuts Malone's right wrist. Vargon announces Vincent the champ according to his request. Shiban, the 5th-class cleric, offers to mend Vincent's injuries, yet before they began battling, Malone gave his statement and marked his right hand as an authority fighter. So in the event that he mends his hand, it would demolish his honor. Malone attempts to go after deceptively, yet Vargon stops him. After 7 days they go to see Vargon, and Yulion trains Vincent to communicate sympathies to Vargon's sister, recognizing that Vincent was familiar with his sister. Nonetheless, he is 4 months late in communicating sympathies. Vincent wishes to get back to being the 7th child of the family, while Vargon is a previously hired fighter. Since Vincent knew his sister, Vargon asks him what his motivation is. Vincent lets him know that he was a supporter of Varnelli. From the start, Vincent needed to be repaid, yet after he heard Vargon's story while examining, he saw himself. Vargon was a kid with no ability, persecuted by the rest. Having heard that, Vincent needed to share his story after Vargon abandoned the family that unwanted him in the Soul Pinnacle. He lived as a soldier of fortune, and after quite a while, he found a new line of work in the Red Fortification. Vargon has no affection for his family nor for his sister, yet that's what Vincent says. Assuming that is the situation, why Vargon actually doesn't leave the pagoda name. Everybody lost the regard they had for Malone. This makes him significantly angrier, and his craving to get back at Seat increases. Then, an element shows up before him and inquires as to whether he needs to kill Vincent. This thing offers him its assistance to make it happen. We get the discussion among Vargon and Vincent. The explanation he doesn't surrender the pagoda name is that this is a group of wizards who have forever been in the pinnacle from one age to another. Being a soldier of fortune might have been an obstruction. Vargon shushes Vincent by letting him know he is only a rascal who has no stars. He doesn't have a clue about the things Vargon needed to go through or how he had an outlook on leaving the enchanted pinnacle. Vargon makes reference to that assuming the Adinka and Samion families do battle, he would obliterate the enchanted pinnacle for demolishing his life. Vincent was like him, however what he needed in the end was not vengeance yet acknowledgement and love. He lets Vargon know that the explanation he has not deserted the pagoda name is on the grounds that he actually has a connection to that family. Farnelli, in contrast to Vargon, was extremely gifted and splendid. Vargon set up with all the harassing he got as a result of the deference he had for her, and yet Farnelli's splendor made him more hopeless as he was under a ton of strain since they maintained that him should be like her, which is the reason he at last abandoned his loved ones. Fargo concedes that he figured he could see through Vincent's aims, yet it was the opposite way around. He never expected to hear life counsel from a whelp. On account of this, Vargon can now be more genuine with his sentiments. Minutes after the fact, Vargon consents to advance Vincent in the fort, so he no longer needs to stress. He basically has the speculation cash back. Yulion notices that with Vargon, that makes 3. Vincent thinks Yulion is dealing with him like some sort of swindler, yet no, all that he told them was true. Selbra and Season go to see Vincent, and praise him for procuring Vargon's advancement. Selbra acquaints herself with Vincent as the agent auxiliary trainee. It's whenever they first met, essentially as the young ladies utilized the main floor. Vincent had never known about a delegate optional recruit previously, yet Selbra is liable for revealing everything to the educators. Then Vincent sees it. That inclination, albeit the level isn't yet similar, Selbra radiates a similar inclination as her mom. What's more, to be sure, Selbra can see the rival's power and secret expected thanks to the qualities he has. So she utilizes it to figure out how Vincent figured out how to overcome Malone. There, she understands that Vincent has no symbolism, and the dark red variety it radiates implies that it isn't workable for her to assess Vincent's secret potential. Vincent isn't exceptionally satisfied that she likes to involve her attribute as such on him. Selbra considers how she knew since it's the initial time. Indeed, even educators can't detect it. Vincent asks them both what they are doing there. Selbra lets him know that it is taboo for recruits to meander alone around evening time. Sighs and let Vincent know that it is perilous for him to wander alone around evening time. They ordinarily utilize the PAL framework. Selbra irritates him by letting him know that he might experience Dayven's detestable soul. Hearing this, Vincent gets some information about the shrewd soul he discussed. Sighs and notice that after the Arcadum and Dayven lost to the legendary ruler, his soul was scattered everywhere, so there are still remainders running wild who make contracts with military craftsmen and give them incredible strength. These remainders empower individuals to achieve objectives involving their lives as insurance. So the Arcadum and Dayven truly existed. It wasn't simply a legend to approach him for everything. Selbra makes reference to that every once in a while, individuals are accounted for to shape contracts with Dayven's remaining parts. However, she doesn't actually put stock in things like this. a malicious soul from a long time back. It is basically impossible that something like this exists, correct? Indeed, that doesn't appear to be the case in light of the fact that the element that showed up before Malone was one of these leftovers of the malevolent soul, and it advises Malone to frame an agreement with it so it can satisfy anything it desires. Malone inquires as to whether it is the abhorrent soul of Dayven, yet it won't reply, letting him know that significantly, it can assist Malone with accomplishing his objective to recapture his situation as ruler of the spot. Vincent goes into the room joined by Saizen. Everybody is snoozing, and Vincent sees that Malone isn't there. Saizen is passed on to return alone in obscurity at night. Before long, he understands that there is something following him. Without a word, this thing removes Saizen's arm. This animal was holding back nothing, and that animal is, in all honesty, Malone, consumed by scorn, allowing this malicious soul to consume him. Saizen quickly sees that Malone made an agreement with a shrewd soul. Malone goes nuts when he sees Saizen pointing the blade at him.